Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5 for season 2 of the Zero to Keystone Master series. I am Diode and I'm glad you made it for a new entry in the series. This episode might be a bit shorter than usual because, I have to be honest, I barely played the game this past week. Had a lot of stuff going on IRL, so WoW had to take a backseat for a while. Surprisingly though, even though I barely ran any Mythic Plus dungeons this week, it was the week where I got the most gear upgrades. Before I begin this brief summary, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in for another week, and if you're not subscribed, please consider clicking that red button down below. It helps me out a lot because I like seeing this channel grow bit by bit. The week starts as usual by getting all the weekly reputation quests, the 5 heroic dungeon quests and the 4 mythic dungeon quests, which finally rolls around again. I begin my rep grind by going down under the Sarilek caverns, where I luckily find a Researchers Under Fire event underway. This event, if fully completed, awards 1000 reputation with the Lone Niffin, which, as you may guess, helps a lot when you're trying to complete the 1.5k rep needed for the Worthy Ally quest in LoL. While I continue to grind reputation along the Dragon Isles, I queued up for the LFR as usual, but I get no worthwhile footage or gear, so I'll just spare you the details there. A quick tip for those of you when the Mythic Dungeon quest is active is just to make a group for Mythic 0 Ruby life pools and label it as a weekly quest run group. Managed to form a group and complete all 4 runs in a few minutes. Mythic Plus is basically just heroic with a bit more HP and damage, but the general community is geared enough to make this in Mythic Zeros an absolute joke, as it's evident by this massive pull of everything up to the first boss in the instance. Just make sure you pick classes with good AoE and that everyone's up for the quest completion and non-stop gameplay for a bit. With all the weekly quests completed, it's time to open the chests and the vault to see what I have to work with this week. So, let's see what I got. As shown in the beginning, I'm at 418 item level with a 2-piece tier bonus. I start by opening up the Researcher's chest, where I get more reputation and a Deep Rock Signet. The Heroic Dungeon chest grants me some shoulders, which are not an upgrade for us at this time. The Niffin chest gives me the Deep Rock Pendant, yet again, and a Splinter Spark of Shadow Flame. The Valdraken chest gives me nothing, which makes me think I shouldn't do this quest at all, and the Call of Aberus chest grants me a Lava Flow Control Rod, a one-handed mace that will pair nicely with the offhand I got last week. The vault drops some really nice pens, which I pick up to catalyze into an upgraded tier piece for me. A few tweaks and adjustments and data sent to raid bots, I get the information needed to pick up the best upgrades for me at this point. I go to the auction house to buy enchants and such for all my new gear pieces, and I use all the flight stones and crests to upgrade my gear as much as possible. Focusing first on my best in slot items, then moving down the priority list. This way, I make sure I keep my good items up to date and whatever can be replaced and upgraded later, open to that option. Okay, now that I'm done with the general stuff, it's time to talk about the dungeons. The first of 3 runs for the week was a 13 on the rut. I pick up a mage, druid, priest healer and a demon hunter tank for this run. Having 3 cloth wearers means I have more chance at upgrades at the end of the run, so that's a nice bonus for me. The run starts with a nice pull from the tank, effectively grouping the enemies to a single spot in the map and... Okay, the first death is mine because I honestly didn't see the green gooey cone after it was too late. But we're at the start of the dungeon, so I just quickly run back and rejoin the group. We make our way down to the first boss without too much hassle, and the fight goes as well as it could have. At this point, this is a pretty simple fight with the player having to dodge just a few mechanics, and considering we are at level 13, we don't have to worry about a third affix that could make this fight an actual challenge. The group makes it to my favorite room in the entire dungeon, and I swear, I've watched this clip a few times and I still can't figure out if the spray was originally targeting me, if I got unlucky and got a few sprays in my direction, or if the spray got moved and I ended up getting hit by it. If you guys can pinpoint exactly what happened, please leave it down in the comments. Another short run back to the arena, where half the group is still fighting the mobs there, and I get greeted by one of the fixating leeches time and time again, sending me into a panic of defensives, running around and pressing whatever instant cast ability I can press. The tank also pulls in the skeleton group that wanders the whole way to the next boss, so we can really stack the AoE for the pulls. A few minutes later, the group beats the second boss with no trouble at all, which is nice, because for once, I didn't die in this fight. We walk down the hill to clear the last enemies before we need to remember the strategies needed to beat this second boss. And remember I did because I get targeted in the first upheaval. So I moved close to the mushrooms to clear the right side of the arena, but I did take some damage because of the floating spores nearby and me moving right into the mushrooms. We repeat the same mechanics a few times and the boss ends up defeated. This next pull is always scary to me because I think I had a few wipes and many deaths to this group. Thankfully, the tank is more than capable of controlling the enemies, and with the added AoE damage from the group, this pack is clear with no trouble at all, which is a nice change of pace. Rewatching the recording to edit it, I noticed that the healer's mana is low, and even though I promised myself to use Vampiric Brains more often, I'm still not used to pressing the cooldown, so I missed a lot of chances where I could have helped out on the healing, even if it wasn't that much. The battle against the last boss begins, and I believe someone in my previous videos this season mentioned that the easiest way to fight this boss is to stack together as a group, moving as a unit around the room and only breaking apart once you had to dodge the Vile Expulsion. We somewhat achieved this, but the group breaks off more than enough time to make the tank question if we even understand what stacking means. Regardless, the key is time. I get a nice +2 upgrade and a 69 rating, haha funny number, bringing me up to 1448 rating and 53 gold, 42 silver and 30 copper closer to my next repair bill. My key gets upgraded to a 15 freehold, and considering last week's strategy, this will be my first and highest freehold key this season, meaning that if I time it, I will get a considerable boost to my rating. So I decide to pick up a Guardian Druid, a pair of Paladin to heal and DPS, and a Hunter because I know the last boss summons exploding ads that can get trapped by a Hunter. Let's see how this freehold run compares to my last attempt. With the first pull clear as smooth as the lo-fi in the background, I have high hopes for this run. The Druid pulls the pack around the pillars so they can easily be AoE'd down, and once they're almost clear, the tank pulls the remaining group into the boss arena to maximize time and efficient positioning for the fight to come. Sky Captain Crag descends into the arena and the fight begins. The main thing to watch out for during this phase is his charge attack, which puts a white swirly target on the ground that you must step out of, otherwise you get heavily damaged or killed by the parrot. Once Crag dismounts, you have to stay alert for the charge, while also keeping your eyes in the group for all the poop dropping from above and the dive bombs from the parrot. The group would do well to spread out to avoid Crag's Acerate shot since it hits whoever is on the way. Once Crag starts to cast his Revitalizing Brew, interrupt it so he doesn't heal a massive amount, and keep an eye out for the bottle in the ground, which will heal anyone who clicks on it. With the captain done, it's time to move to the next part of the dungeon to face the Council of Captains. You must be mobile for these pulls, because the mobs keep putting targeted areas on the ground, which can either be a dash that deals a lot of damage, traps that will hurt and immobilize you for a few seconds, or a spray of water that will deal heavy damage and launch you up in the air. Down in the council arena, the tank pulls enemies from all around as to clear them before the boss fight. This duo of captains can get hectic, so eliminating all possible random pulls is very efficient. For this fight, I like to focus down Eudora as she shoots from a distance and can be quite a nuisance, especially when she starts casting Grape Shot, which covers the whole arena in a burst of shots that will deal massive damage to those it connects with. So get close to her, and whenever she jumps away to cast the ability, run behind her to avoid the damage completely and getting free damage on the boss while she's stationary. The second boss in this duo is Raoul, who throws battle around, incapacitating those who it hits, making a barrels a priority to target once they connect with a party member. Aside from that, he's a melee character, so stay away from all his AoE damage and Raoul should fall quickly. Just like last time, these pulls for the RP fight are big enough to maximize a Shadow Priest ramp up AoE damage, and I will not get tired of saying it. I absolutely love the aesthetics of this class in huge AoE pulls. The next set of bosses are uninteresting at best, though the fight with the Shard boss is extremely annoying for casters since we have to be in constant movement and kiting the sharks around through the chump pulls in the ground. With over 10 minutes remaining, I reached the place where it all fell apart in last week's episode. Thankfully, we don't have heroic mages in our group, so it's just a matter of doing big damage and reaping the rewards. The last pack is defeated, completing the percentage for this run, meaning we only have to fight the last boss. This peak male specimen named Heartland Sweet has many mechanics up his sleeve, and as such, we have to be ready for the barrage of nonsense he decides to call for at any given moment. For instance, His Swift Wind Saber conjures up a small tornado that shoots in a direction and deals damage to anyone in its way. Harlan can also be extra annoying by calling down cannon fire from his ship, which will target a player and follow them for a short duration, leaving fire pools on the ground wherever the player ran over. As a ranged player myself, I decided to stay between these two cannons for whenever I got targeted by the barrage, and it pays off because I am, indeed, the next target. So what I do in this situation is move as much as possible to avoid the damage, but as little as possible to contain the fire pools as close together and as far from the group as possible. At 60% health, the boss turns all of his attack to the entire group. So now, you must coordinate with the party on where to move to avoid overlapping abilities. Or, if you're pugging, hope for the best and do the best you can. This way, your melee DPS can stay close to the boss and don't have to run around the entire arena like what happened to our paladin here. At 30%, the boss goes all out, doing 100% extra damage but also taking 100% extra damage, so his 30% HP is actually at 15%, a time period where you can go balls to the wall. We successfully cleared the dungeon, giving my key a +1, awarding me 205 rating and bringing me up to 1653, and giving me a nice ring upgrade, which makes sense since I went out of my way to get the Onyx Amulet that I would get 2 ring upgrades almost back to back. My next key is a 16 Legacy of Tyr, and this is a dungeon where I came upon the idea that my item level might not be enough to run 16s yet. As you'll see through the run, my damage is super low when compared to the other DPS, I take way too much damage from the boss abilities and I can't do as much as I could be doing. Sure, to the general WoW player base, a 16 is a joke dungeon that they can clear in 5 minutes, but I'm not at that level of play just yet. The first pull on Bromac turns a bit messy. There's a lot of damage coming out, the evoker goes down almost immediately, followed by the tank, which isn't healed in time and dies to the boss's thundering smash. He is quickly picked up by the Red Paladin, who shortly dies after, and then we all get overwhelmed by the ads and get our first wipe. The second pull goes way smoother to the point someone might think this was a whole different fight. Nobody cares about the dwarves, so let's skip that fight. By the way, we have 7 deaths in the group now. I'll let you guess who that was. My next death was in Talandris' fight, but we also cleared that boss. I say we, meaning the group, because I'm honestly not doing much. We're all just hanging around while the paladin clears the entire dungeon. The rest of the run was pretty seamless, but it all ended once we got to Emberon. The evoker and I die after a hectic start to the fight. The 2 paladin and the healer do as much as they can with what little time we have. The boss ends up getting duoed by the paladins to no one's surprise, but the healer decides that this was their final straw. They get resurrected, and as quickly as they came, they left, thus ending our dungeon runs for the night. With that, I end up close to the 2k rating I need to achieve the goal I set for myself, 424 item level, and a sad vault with only one option unlocked. I apologize for the lack of dungeons, but like I said, I was busy during that week and I could barely play the game. But with my rating at 1600, I believe I can make a push and make this next week the final video for this season, at least with the Shadow Priest. So if you've enjoyed this journey so far, consider subscribing, giving a like, and commenting down below if you think I can actually get KSM for next week's reset. That's all for now, and I hope to see you tune in for next week's episode.